excommunicated him from Mar-a-Lago. He got rid of him. He got rid of him out of his life when he realized the guy was a total scumbag and what he was doing. But you know who didn't get rid of Epstein? The Democrats. After he was a convicted sex offender, you've got him texting with Democrat members of Congress, telling them what to say. Yeah. So you have Trump responsibly excommunicating Epstein and Democrats cozying up to him. Again, I have a feeling.
Want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Hey. Why this beat so cold?
We will make America proud again. When you try to kill our we will make America wealthy again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
Oh boy, look what we have in the spotlight on the weekend. Epstein. All hell. And we here to expose it in broad daylight. They say it's coming out. They say them files is coming out. This is coming out. Them patriots want accountability and full transparency. But look at this low IQ heifer they done bought up on MS Now. MSNBC. Why did y'all reach? I got to do some research on why they changed the name, rebrand. I don't know if they got bought out or did this and that. Y'all should have just shut it down. The hell with renaming stuff, this and that. They should have just shut MSNBC down. At one point, when they're gonna be bought out by Elon Musk? Yeah, I mean, just shut the fake news media down. The hell with the media. But you know, they've been doing a little hit back, and they done bought this heifer on and called out for once again lying. I'm telling y'all, lies, defamation, misinformation. People ought to be sued out their shoes, man. They get up screaming to the top of their lungs, and then it all comes down to, I'm a black woman. I'm a black woman. It doesn't matter. I'm a black woman. You know, people sick of this low IQ heifer, man. Texas want this lady gone. They want this lady out of Congress, man. You know, it's a disgrace. And then it gets worse and worse and worse for these doggone Democrats.
Made a little bit of news last week when you mistakenly accused Lee Zeldin and other Republicans
I didn't
accepting money from Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, she's smiling. You mistakenly. Man, this heifer, she shouldn't have opened up her mouth to begin with. She completely humiliated and embarrassed herself last week, opening her mouth about Epstein. You know, we see how it's played out with you Democrats and Epstein. You know, at first y'all tried to make it all about Trump. And look how that's played out.
But it was a different Jeffrey Epstein, according to the financial records. Do you want to? I don't want to give you the opportunity to amend that. And
I have no amendments. When I was on the floor, for those that don't know how it works, basically they decided to bring this privilege motion up. And they decided that they wanted to kick Stacey off of her committees because Stacey had received Stacey Plaskett because she had received a donation from Jeffrey Epstein. I had maybe 20 minutes. We researched the FEC, and because I like to speak with specificity, that's kind of what comes with being an attorney. I made clear that there was a Jeffrey Epstein. They knew on the other side that I did not have time to actually pull up and actually research, especially since that particular one that Lee Zeldin got up in an uproar about was specifically out of the New York area. We know that he was out of that area. So, and this obviously was not done post Jeffrey Epstein's life. So I made sure that I said a Jeffrey Epstein.
But you were trying to insinuate that it was the Jeffrey
I absolutely was insinuating that it could be possible. That is true.
Yeah, we know, man, because you humiliated and embarrassed yourself. You know, but this is what happened when a black sister want to get up and run a doggone mouth and scream to the top of her lungs and have no idea what the hell she's talking about. You know, I told y'all, man, I'm a black woman. That's all she get up there and say. I'm a black woman. To hell with Trump. To hell with you Republicans and MAGA conservatives. And the president is an orange orangutan. I'm telling y'all, we're going to expose this heifer. But anyways, let's get this heifer off my screen. And the hell with MSBNC now, MS now. They shouldn't have changed the name. They should have shut it down, in my opinion. I'm just saying.
They passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act. They're finally going to do it, ordering the Department of Justice to release every unclassified document every communication and every file related to Jeffrey Epstein. Not everybody's excited about this. Obviously, too many leaders in Washington on both sides of the aisle are nervous about what we're going to see. And to be honest with you, I am too. Not because I know who's on the list. I love transparency. I'm all for it. But sometimes I wonder if everybody's actually ready for the full truth, because once it comes out, you can't put it back in, right? There's no undo button once darkness finally gets exposed. I think it's because evil this deep never attaches itself to just one party. Sin is like mold, and no political basement is totally dry.
And if Democrats were so keen on this transparency, why didn't they release the files when they were in office?
Because they're garbage and they were part of the cover-up, that's why. Because there are also Democrats implicated in the Epstein files, that's why. This is not a partisan issue. This is an issue of powerful elite individuals engaging in criminal behavior, in bad behavior, and cover-ups of their buddies and for themselves. That is the problem here. The American people, both on the left and the right and in the middle, want to know whether or not we are governed by and judged on based on pedophiles who have these and hold these positions of power. That's what we want to know. That's what this is about. This is not anyone who's framing this as a partisan issue, and I will concede that corporate media, legacy media, they're hyper-focused on some made-up partisan angle here. This is not about partisanship. This is about justice for the survivors, and it's about knowing whether or not we have disgusting pedophiles governing us in the government.
We got this reporting from this source explaining America. No one will believe it. GOP leader reveals stunning finding in Epstein report. Check this out.
The long-awaited release of the Epstein files is forthcoming. There is going to be a congressional report on these files, and the House Oversight Committee chairman is already sounding the alarms about the fallout of this report. But before we get into the story, please common sense journalism. Well, House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer, a congressman from Kentucky, is already warning that this Epstein report is not going to make people happy. And that's because he believes it could wind up in the eyes of the American public as a report not much different than that of the Warren Commission that gave us a one-sided narrative about the JFK assassination. And there are still a lot of critics about that decades later, and Comer believes that this Epstein report could be viewed by the public in much the same way. Comer has spent months digging through Epstein's records, including financial records, letters, emails, and personal materials. So far, the investigation has turned over about 65,000 pages of Epstein-related documents, and it hasn't given us a lot of insight into the blackmail ring that Epstein was running and the Johns that were connected to all of these victims. And it's very suspicious indeed, because thousands of victims were being trafficked for Epstein while he was cozying up to some of the most powerful leaders in the world, including Prince Andrew of the royal family. So many Americans don't think it's a coincidence, nor the intelligence ties that Ghislaine Maxwell had through her father specifically. So Comer expects the filings in this upcoming report to be viewed with a lot of suspicion. He doesn't believe that the Congress can win in this situation, that they're in a lose-lose situation. And Congress has recently, as you know, passed legislation to force the release of these documents within 30 days, and President Donald Trump has signed it into law. Now, this is what Comer said, and I quote, "I fear the report will be like the Warren report. Nobody will ever believe it," unquote. Now, the Warren report, as you know, was issued by the Warren Commission, and there are a lot of concerns by historians that they left out extremely concerning information. It pointed to Lee Harvey Oswald being a lone gunman, and it sort of glided over his ties to intelligence, the mob, his foreign activities. And in early 2025, President Trump ordered the release of thousands of classified documents related to the 1963 assassination of John F. Kennedy. And the files included memos, interviews, transcripts, and intelligence reports, such as the 1964 Warren Commission interview with a CIA employee in a 1975 CIA memo identifying former Mexican President Luis Echeverria Alvarez as the agency's security contact on Lee Harvey Oswald in Mexico. So while this release was significant, many experts noted that many of the documents were already released, and the new materials did not reveal major evidence of a conspiracy. But historians, however, welcome the additional insights into Cold War era intelligence operations and U.S. surveillance activities during Kennedy's presidency. But despite Trump's promise of a complete release, one expert noted that about 2/3 of the anticipated 3,500 unreleased documents were not included in the March 2025 disclosure. So will this Epstein report go much the same way as the Warren report and the subsequent JFK files release? We'll have to stay tuned for that.
Oh boy.
But if James Comer's words are any warning, well, we might be extremely disappointed in the efforts at transparency and, more importantly, accountability.
Oh boy.
But weigh in with your thoughts. We always appreciate you watching.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What they saying? Let me point out the obvious. 38 trillion in debt. These are not the people for honesty, accountability, or responsibility. I don't care. Anyone involved in the pedo actions should be dealt with publicity who can not allow this in society. Greater question is, why was Jeffrey Epstein blackmailing politicians? Who were his handlers? This government is corrupt and you will never hear the truth. The government is the biggest criminal organization in the nation. No exceptions. Trillions have disappeared. What does disappeared mean? It means they have it and it's none of your business. Epstein is not the only blackmail island. Politicians are involved, you can be assured. Oh boy, all that America gets out of this is the picture of Epstein painting of Slick Willie in a blue dress. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah. You just can't make it up.